Buongiorno. Buongiorno. Ciao. Prego. And that's about the extent of my Italian. Yeah, but I know, but can you guys hear me? The translators, can you hear me okay if the microphone is here? Okay. I just figure that I don't want to be too loud in your ears, but I feel like it's a small room. Nicola, can you hear me okay? No, I guess not. Nicola, you can hear me okay. Okay. I just don't want to be too loud in your ears, and I want you to be able to understand the translators as well. So anyway, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you to the Orlandellis for having me here. It's wonderful. I've been in the country now for about a week, and I've been observing trends. I've been observing people. I've been observing lots of food and lots of wine. And so I've been having a wonderful time. And as you do, I'm a trend spotter, whatever that means, but as you all also are here because you want to know the trends. So you are also all trend spotters as well. So as you walk around and you're in new places, I'm sure you observe new trends and things from other countries and other cultures. And that's all that we do here with our trends report, is that we take a look at what's happening on a global perspective in the whole world. And then we take all of those trends and we try to figure out how they relate to the garden industry. What effect will they have on our customers? And also people who maybe aren't our customers yet, but we want them to be our customers. So bravo to all of you for coming. I know you're not just here to see the trends, but this is very important for your businesses. This is something that will set you apart from your customers. And knowing the trends, as Marco said, drives the customers. They want to know, they want to be ahead of the curve. And so if they shop somewhere that they feel like is ahead of the curve, then they will come back to you again and again because they trust you. So we're going to jump in. Our 2019 report just came out September 17th, so this is brand new. This is my first European talk. I've given this presentation once in the United States. So our report is downloaded by tens of thousands of people across the world. We know that because we asked for your email address. So this report is widely downloaded. Now it's translated, thank you, into many languages as well. But just a little bit about why trends are important. We talked about the fact that trends drive customers and customers drive sales. So trends drive sales. But maybe as you're listening to this presentation, you'll think of a new business idea. You'll think of a new way to run your business. So there are lots of things that trends can do, but most importantly, they help you connect the dots between what you do and what your customer wants. And that's really one of the most important things. So we've been doing this. I'm also a family business. This year we're celebrating 30 years of business at Garden Union Group. My mom started the business. And we've been predicting trends for 18 years. So we started, does anyone know the Philadelphia Flower Show? It's a big consumer show in Pennsylvania where I'm from. And we started predicting the trends with that organization. And so these are some of the trends that we predicted back in 2001, that people would be living outdoors. They would be taking furniture, putting it outside, which may be something you've been doing here for a long time. But in America, we weren't. We had these big, at the time, we called them McMansions, big houses, and everyone spent time inside. But we predicted in 2001 that people would start having smaller homes and using the outdoors as their living room. We also predicted in 2008 that people would want to garden for the birds and the bees, for pollinators, we call them. And that trend has taken off. Cheerios, the brand Cheerios even has, their honeybee is the ambassador now for bees in the country. So there are just a few of the examples of the things that we predicted in the past. And so these are not to brag or say that we always get it right, because we don't. But it is to show that these things will happen. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next year, but in the coming years, these are things that will come down the pipeline that will be affecting your customers. And you, too, because you are people as well. We're all people. These things affect all of us. So this year we call our trend Rooted Together, which I'm very excited to present it here in Italy, because this is a global thing that is happening to our planet, to the people who live on this planet. And what we see happening and what we see coming is that people are going to band together to create a better future. And the trends that we have listed, the trends that we have outlined, show the ways that our industry can help people create a better future. because we are the original green industry after all. So the things that have been happening in the States is that we've been very focused on ourselves. We call it the me generation. Self-care is a big buzzword in the States. It's about taking some time for yourself, really spending time on learning about yourself, who you are, and that is wonderful. You should know who you are, love yourself, and that's great. However, we've neglected a very big person, and that is Mother Earth, that is she. So we see a shift away from so much about caring about ourselves to caring more about the global perspective, and caring more about Mother Nature. Stand over here. And one of the things that we really are finding that people are seeing when they are connecting back with Mother Nature is they are truly finding joy. They are understanding that when it's deep in us. We are all connected to nature somehow. And when we get disconnected from nature, we find that we get a little bit disorganized in our heads, that we're not as healthy, we're not as happy when we're not connected to nature. And there are a few authors in the United States that wrote about this, and one of my favorite is called Michael McCarthy. And he says that finding joy in nature will help save the environment and in turn save us. So what's the positive thing here? Well, there's some stats here from the States. And we have an organization called the National Gardening Association, NGA. And the future looks really bright for us in the States. Horticulture sales are $47.8 billion, and the average household set a spending this year of $503 on average. And that's up last year $100. Last year it was $400. So that's a big jump from 1 year. It was about $400 for a number of years. Before we had a recession in 2008, gardening was on the up. And then for about 10 years it was very flat. Very flat from 2008 till about 2017, 2018. So this year, things are coming back. People are making that connection between horticulture and happiness. And it's the young people who are really spending the money. The 18 to 34-year-olds, which we call millennials, do you call them millennials? They are spending more than their other generations. They're spending more money, and they're shopping in person for garden products. And in the United States, consumer horticulture creates $2 million worth of jobs. So the future looks very bright for our industry. For a while there, it was a little dim, but now the future looks very bright. So, gardening indoors and out is one of the things that we can really help our customers understand and be successful at. And we have a group of landscape architects in our country, and they do a survey every year. And last year, when they surveyed their customers, they surveyed the architects of the top 10 things their customers were asking for. Number 1 and number 2 were sustainable landscapes and native plants. 5 years ago, those things weren't even on the list. People didn't know what it meant to have a sustainable landscape. So the education that has come from 3 to now, years ago, has made big, big progress. And people are asking for these kinds of landscaping cities. So what we like to say is, as the industry, the green industry, the horticulture industry, we need to be the ones to put a stake in the ground, because we have a stake in the future. We need to say, this is how you do it, this is how you can save the planet, you come to us and we'll teach you. So we have 8 trends. And this is the list of the trends. I'll go through each of them, but they all connect back to that main overarching theme, that we are all rooted together, and we all need to do something as the garden industry to help save this planet. So they start out pretty high level and a little bit more global, and then they work down into more specific into the garden industry. But these things affect us on a global perspective, on a global scale, and it's not just things that are happening in the United States. For example, our first trend is called the indoor generation. Now this is not an age group, this is not a place where you live, this is not a race. The indoor generation is all of us. We are lucky enough that we are in the garden industry, so we maybe don't spend as much time indoors as most, but there are some very alarming statistics that show that the indoors is the new outside. 90% of people worldwide spend nearly 22 hours a day inside. Americans, we spend 93% of our time either in our car, in the gym, in our house, at work. And what's happening when we're inside? We're not connecting with nature outside. We're not getting fresh air. Even worse still, children on average spend less than 1 hour a day outside. That's 50% less than their parents did. So we are all the indoor generation. We all spend way too much time inside, away from nature, the very thing that makes us happy and healthy. So what's happened over the past 200 years, much longer in your culture, but in our history, only the last 200 years, we've migrated to be from farmers and being in the fields to working in factories and sitting at desks. We no longer are connected to nature. Maybe some of us have gotten a little stagnant. We sit too much, and instead of basking in the glow of the sun, we bask in the glow of our screens. There's even makeup now that you can wear to prevent blue face, screen face. So I don't think L'Oreal makes that, but because it probably is not true, it doesn't work. But so being part of this in-crowd of the indoor generation is bad for us. It's creating higher levels of anxiety, obesity. We all know that. You understand. If you spend too much time inside, it's not good for you. So what can you do? Well, we need to introduce more plants inside. We can't change the world. We know that people are going to still be inside more. We can encourage them to get outside. We can encourage them to take walks. We can show them the places in your towns and your neighborhoods where they can get outside and be in nature. But the most current thing we can do is bring the outdoors inside. It is an enormous trend in the United States, houseplants. All of our major newspapers are writing about houseplants and millennials, which we'll get to in a minute. But houseplants are the big rage. And I know we were talking yesterday about cacti and succulents and how those are very popular worldwide because they're low maintenance. But any kind of houseplant, there are numbers of houseplants that are so easy to grow and that help clean the air. And so educating your customers on which houseplants those are, which houseplants, and any picture, this generation, they love their pets and they love this younger generation and they love their alcohol. So anything with pictures that you show that shows one of those two combinations, you have a winning picture there. So Pinterest searches last year for the words terrarium, cactus plants, and tropical plants were up 90% from the year before. So people are not only, it's not just the papers that are reporting on this, people are actually searching for these things 90% more than they were the year before. So the popularity is there. It's just, where are they going to find these plants? How do they know how to take care of these plants? That becomes your job to educate them. And also there's a new type of design that's called biophilic design, which just means that you are incorporating nature into the architecture. So in the walls of your home, you have plants. You have them green walls built in, and those are things that people are now asking for. The bookshelf was not always a part of the home, but now the bookshelf is a natural part of the home. Will a green wall be the next natural part of new architecture? So this young group of people are called plant parents in the States. They're this millennial group of 18 to 34-year-olds who are caring for plants like they are their children, which is great. That's what we want. We want people to love their plants like they are their family. This generation is having children later. They're getting married later. And so things like pets are a little bit too much of a commitment for them. They don't yet think they are ready for it. They are looking at their phones all day, and taking care of a plant is about the biggest commitment that they can make. But that's wonderful. Give them all the plants. We want them to be able to understand what it's like to care for a plant, and then they become plant lovers. And then when they move out of an apartment then they move into a bigger space, and then they have a garden. And we are cultivating this generation to be gardeners. And in fact, in the United States, according to that National Gardening Association, over the last few years, millennials were responsible. This one sector, 18 to 34-year-olds, are responsible for 31% of houseplant sales. So houseplants are the gateway for this generation for gardening. So that's our first trend. It's called indoor generation. Now, with the indoor generation, of course, what will you get? You will get the screen age, which means that more people are looking at their screens. And those two little girls there are my daughters. She has a little bit more hair now, but not that much. But I don't give them too much time on screens. We don't watch TV, we don't look at too much TV, we're outside a lot. But they watch TV at school. They have iPads at their schools. They go to daycare. They have iPads at their schools. It's unavoidable. You can't get away from screens. And I'm not saying that we should, because I love social media. I think it's great. It introduces our customers to our products in many ways that we could not before. But we need to educate ourselves and then our children on healthy ways to use the media. So it's kind of scary thinking about that picture and thinking about the time that we're spending in front of a screen. And I have some more statistics here that are somewhat alarming. This is for the US. Mobile media time for 0 to 8-year-olds tripled since 2013 to 48 minutes a day. 0 to 8-year-olds. That doesn't seem that bad to me. Not that crazy. But tweens, and those are 8 to 12, they log 4.5 hours a day, while teens spend 7 hours a day on their looking at some sort of device. That's crazy. That's too much time. But you know who's the worst? Us, adults. We spend nearly 11 hours a day looking at some type of screen. And check our phone every 10 minutes. I know it sounds crazy, but I saw you go, like, maybe you do it too. I do it. I look at my phone every 10 minutes for sure, maybe every 2 minutes, and that averages out on the time that I'm sleeping. So it's scary. And while we are looking at our screens daily, children up to 2 to 17-year-olds are exposed to 15 unhealthy food commercials. So not only are they sitting, they're inside most likely, they're looking at phones, but they're getting advertisements for unhealthy food. So now what do you think they're asking for? They're not asking for vegetables, they're asking for McDonald's. So we have a bit of a problem, but we can help with this problem. We can, as I said, we can teach our children how to be patient, how to be responsible. And what teaches patience and responsibility? Gardening. Gardening does. But it starts with us. You can't tell your kids to put their phone down at the dinner table if you have your phone out at the dinner table. You can't tell your kid to pay attention to you if you're talking to them while you're looking at your phone. So it starts with us. It starts, healthy media habits start with adults, and it trickles down. And the movement is happening. There's a hashtag called Delete Facebook. People are leaving Facebook in waves. And it's not necessarily because they're sick of social media as much as they're sick of the privacy, the lack of privacy. So there is a movement, but it's not necessarily because people are wanting to unplug. They're going to Instagram. So they're spending as much time in social media, it's just somewhere else, not on Facebook. So gardening is such a wonderful thing to teach that good stewardship of Mother Earth. So what are some of the things you can do? You know, this is a report that's read by lots of consumers. It's not all read by garden centers. You all know what you need to do. You all know how to educate your customers about how to grow. But maybe you have a section in your store that's just for little hands with products, small tools, small pots, really colorful pots. Every 4-year-old girl I know's favorite color is purple. So maybe you have a collection of purple seeds. And it's a place where parents will bring their children. It's a big, garden centers in these states, a big trend right now is to have events. We have events on Thursday night for those young people where you have some beer, Saturday mornings for the families. And If you have a place in your store that's safe, that parents don't feel like their kids are going to break something. I know we love ceramics in our garden centers in the States, but if you have a safe place in your store where parents can feel comfortable, then they will come more, and they will come to trust you and believe that they can bring their kids to your store. And then the children, it's not just the parents, because they buy things, but their kids direct what they buy. And so then the kids will want to come back, and come back, and come back. And that's what we want. So that's our screen age trend. And our next trend is it's been one of people's favorites. It was a late trend, a late addition to our trends. We had 7, and at the last minute we added this one, and we're calling them golden hearts. We're also calling this group of people, these young people, new environmentalists. They're Generation Z is what we call them in the States, but they're the 2 to 17-year-olds. They're these young people that come after Generation X, then Generation Y, and this is Generation Z. And they are sick. They're sick of our politics in the United States. They're fed up with the fact that the generations before them have destroyed their planet, and they've been left with really nothing, and they're ready to make a change. So this generation is running for office. As soon as they turn 18, they're running for local office. They are so engaged and ready to take action. So they've grown up with social media. They've grown up with this absorption with self. And they realize the detriment it has done to the planet. And now they're looking outside of themselves to make a change. The global brand Unilever found that 1/3 of this group of people choose brands based on the sustainable initiatives of those brands. So if the brand is doing something to give back and they are promoting it, then that's something that they choose. I'm wearing, I don't have the logo, but the Tom's shoes. Do you guys know the brand Tom's? Where you buy one shoe and they give a shoe to a child in need for free. And that was one of the first brands to do this initiative. And now, if you're not doing it, you're not surviving in this world. So what is this group doing besides shopping with their wallets, shopping sustainably? Well, they're volunteering more than ever. This 18 to 34-year-old group set a record 25.2% of volunteering last year, which exceeds the national rate. So this small group of people is giving back with their time, not just their money. And by 2020, this term responsible tourism, which means that you're traveling to do some good. You're not just traveling like I am to eat and drink, but you're traveling to do some good. And that's expected to increase 350% by 2020. That's a huge increase of people who are making a big change and traveling, seeing the world so they can give back and do something good. Because this generation, they have a global perspective. They go on their phones and they can look at pictures of Italy. They can look at pictures of South Africa. They can do anything they want. They can travel from their bedrooms. So they have a very global perspective. And so they want to get out into the world, and they want to do something and give something back. And this really offers our industry and our brands an opportunity, because we give back to the earth. That's what we do every day by nature of our business. So how can we tell them just by gardening, you're doing something great for the planet? So there's a few organizations that are examples of this in the States. You may have similar ones here, but we have a couple organizations. The first one is called the Collegiate Plant Initiative. They will come to colleges at the first start. September, we all come back to college, university. And they give out free plants. They have given away 4,000 plants in 6 minutes. People, these young freshmen and 18, 19-year-olds will line up for plants and forget about the concert, the rock concert that's happening across the hall, the quad. They want the plants. They want greenery in their lives. Now, we can thank social media for that. We can thank ourselves for that. We've kept this industry alive. But whatever it is, these young people want plants. They're dying for plants. We have an initiative called the Million Pollinator Garden Challenge, where we challenge people to create pollinator gardens and register your garden online. And it started in 2016, but but in 2018, the numbers doubled in the last quarter of 2018. So people are ramping up. They're ready. They're ready to garden. They're ready to make change. They're ready to do something. Microsoft partnered with an organization in our country called the Future Farmers of America, which is kids in age, in 6th grade to 12th grade who want to learn how to be farmers, because that's still a profession that you won't make any money in. But Microsoft sees that there's a potential here. So they invested $1.9 million in this organization so they could teach these kids how to farm with technology. The marriage of farming and technology. It's a beautiful thing. And it's also not just movements. The Sierra Club, an organization, says that these kids are choosing their colleges, which universities they want to attend, based on their sustainable initiatives. So they are shopping sustainably, they are traveling sustainably, and they're picking their colleges. So this is something that's very important to this generation, and that is our industry. We don't do everything right. We still, use a lot of waste in our industry, but we do a lot of things better than many others. So speaking of a lot of waste, the next trend is called root to stem. And that's a very popular trend in the United States, eating the entire plant, eating the tops of the carrots. And I don't know if this is something that you already do here, but the tops of the beets, not wasting anything. It's a big trend. We take the grain from a brewery and bake bread with it. When you have the ends of lettuce, now it's becoming juice. So we want to waste nothing. It is a big trend. It's certainly not there yet, but it's starting to pick up. So this trend is also called zero waste, conscious consumption, whatever you want to call it. Basically, it's recycling, reusing. That's not a new concept, recycling, but the concepts here are new. And it's no wonder, because globally, 1/3 of all food is wasted. Just throw it away. In America, that's 4.4 pounds of trash a day. That's way too much. And I'm sure, maybe here in this country, I've noticed you use a lot less plastic than we do, and a lot less paper than we do. So we are much more wasteful, but it's still happening. We consume, we consume, we consume, and we don't think about where all that trash goes. And last year, there's a great website called Google Trends. Go to Google Trends, you can put in anything, and you can see what people are talking about. So you can see what kind of terms people are talking about over the last 3 months, 3 days, 3 years. And we looked up zero waste, this term zero waste. And I don't know if that directly translates, but you want to live your life without producing any trash at all. That term saw a 700% increase last year. People wanted to know, what is it? Why are people talking about it? And maybe, how can I live with a little bit of less waste in my life? And currently in the States, excuse me, only 9% of plastics are recycled a year. Would you pour me some water, please? Thank you, I'm choking. And I only have 2 hands. So only 9% of plastics are recycled, that can be recycled. So we have a big conspiracy theory happening in the States now that we're actually recycling, but the recycling companies are just throwing our recycling in the trash because China won't take our waste anymore. So we don't know what to do with it. And 8 million metric tons of plastic is being dumped into the ocean every year. So what's the solution? I know, I'm a little negative here, but what's the solution? The point is that our industry can offer solutions. Well, we can garden more, right? And this slide's about plastic straws. Have you heard about the plastic straw, the summer of the plastic straw in the United States? Plastic straws they are the bad guy. And we've already been banning plastic bags, and plastic bottles have been reduced to be very much thinner, but now it's plastic straws. They're the bad guy. So bans for plastic straws. If you come to the United States, you may not get a straw. Certainly at Starbucks, because they said by 2020 we will not serve any more straws. Yet all of their cups are made out of plastic, and their lids are made out of plastic. So it doesn't really make sense. We call that a little bit of greenwashing, but Brands are committed to making changes. Big brands, Coca-Cola, IKEA in Stockholm set up their first ever reuse store. So you can bring your IKEA furniture back to the store and sell it. And somebody can go in and get used IKEA furniture. It's pretty smart if your IKEA furniture lasts that long. But we have a lot of plastic fertilizer bags in our country. And this brand is Spoma, which I don't think you have here, but they are committed to getting rid of all of their plastic fertilizer bags, and they're made out of a sugarcane resin. So brands are taking initiative, and even in our own industry, not just outside of our industry. We still have the plastic pot, but that's not for us to decide how to get rid of that today. So, great thing about gardening is that we compost. We know how to compost. We like composting. We don't think that it's dirty or yucky. And we can teach our customers that compost is great, and that compost is good, that compost gives back. And not only can we teach them that, but it takes food out of the landfill. Food is the largest waste in landfills, in American landfills, more than styrofoam, tires, and diapers combined. And having young children, you know how many diapers you have. You can't imagine how much food is in a landfill. And composting reduces your household waste by 40%. If you can tell your customers they'll have 40% less trash just by composting. And then they don't have to, well, maybe you want them to buy the fertilizer, but educate them on the various things that composting does. You can even sell them a compost unit. So composting is truly a new recycling, where you can reuse your waste, put it back into your garden, and then eat the food that you grow out of that. It's a beautiful thing. So our next trend we call silence of the insects. And it's a little bit of a reference to the Silence of the Lambs movie, but it's a big epidemic that's happening where we're losing our bugs. Bugs across the world are being depleted, they're in danger. And bugs aren't koalas, so they're not as cute, and people don't care as much about them because we want to think about cuddling a koala. We don't really want to think about cuddling up to a fly. So we have a big crisis with our bugs. I talked about that environmental author in the beginning, Michael McCarthy, and he has a term he calls the moth snowstorm. Does that resonate? Does anyone know what that means, the moth snowstorm? What about the windshield effect? Does that mean anything to anybody? When you drive your car along the highway and you have to clean off the front of your car because so many bugs hit it. That's basically what I'm talking about. When I started driving, when I got my license, I feel like at every gas station I stopped at, I had to get out the squeegee and squeeze it off my front of my windshield. But I can't remember the last time I had to do that because we just don't have as many flying insects. A German study was recently published, and it was widely reported. And in the past 30 years, the population of insects has plunged 75%. Now, I know some people don't like bugs, and mosquitoes are not our friends, but they are the essence of our, you all know this, I don't need to tell you, but they are the essence of our population. Without bugs, we have no pollination, we have no food, we have no people. We need bugs. It shows that a crisis. It shows that we have some sort of crisis happening. So what can we do? Oh, so not just are these bad insects declining, good insects declining, but bad insects are thriving. We call these pests invasives in our country. I'm not sure what the term would be here, but an unwelcome bug. Every year it seems to be there's a new unwelcome bug that's coming and attacking all of our trees and wiping them out. And so how is it that the good bugs are dying yet the bad bugs can survive? Because they're eating, these invasives are eating all of the food that our good bugs eat. They're killing their habitats. That's not to say what we're doing to those bugs as well. So invasives are a big problem. So one of the things that we can do is educate our customers on ways that we can not allow invasives, plants and insects. If you see invasive plants, educate your customers on what invasive plants and insects look like. In the States, we can call our government and tell them that we've spotted one. And so it helps reduce the ability for these insects to move across our country, our towns, and keep destroying our plants. In our country, we say that 42% of our endangered species are threatened because of invasives. Not because of climate change, because we know the planet is warming and it's becoming inhabitable for these insects, but it's due to these bad bugs. And we spend a lot of money to eradicate them. So we just talked about how we can detect them, how you can educate your customers on gardening for the greater good, gardening for the greater good of the planet. And we have a few American sites here that will help people identify a bad bug and then help them understand what's good to plant in their region. So this helps people who download the report. But you all know this information. This is information that you could be emailing your customers with, you could be posting it on your social media accounts, or you could just be talking about it. Somebody in the garden center could have a button, say, ask me about native plants. You know, something to get the conversation started, something that gets people, what does that mean? Maybe I should ask them what they're talking about. Or maybe you have this already, but you have sections of your store for pollinator plants. Because now we choose a lot of our plants based on how they look, how pretty they are, and not necessarily how much pollen they have. Because maybe we don't like pollen, maybe we don't want to get the pollen on our clothes. But that pollen is what's so important for the bugs. So that's what we need to do, is we need to educate these people that maybe you get a little bit of pollen on you, but it brings 30 different species of butterfly to your garden. So how great is that? And another thing that we can do is that I visited in Florence Bulbily Gardens, which apparently was the start of the first style of that gardening, very trimmed hedges. But we don't need to garden like that anymore. This may be terrible to say in Italy, I don't know, but you can let your garden go a little wild. You don't have to let it be such trimmed hedges. You can let your grass grow a little wild. You can allow your yards and your gardens to be a little bit more natural to support this wildlife that lived here before we did. So you can educate your customers on how maybe just a little patch is a little wild and the rest of it is more formal, but something that supports wildlife. So this is our 5th trend. We have 2 more after this. And this one is called robo-gardening. So as the insects are declining and our population is inclining, we need more food. So globally, we need more food. But the insects aren't pollinating it. We're going to need to turn to technology in the garden. We're going to need new ways to garden so we can feed the world. So all kinds of new technology is coming out in other industries. But the real big interesting thing that we see that's happening is robots that can see. So there are now robots that can slice chicken, which you say, what does that really have to do with our industry? But these robots can help take out some, we have a labor issue in the United States in our industry. We have a problem with workers who are skilled enough to do our labor. People aren't entering the labor force as much as they were 10, 20 years ago and majoring in horticulture at university. So maybe some of the jobs that aren't fashionable can be done by robots. They're not to replace our jobs, but to complement our jobs. There's a robotic lawnmower. There's a robotic weeder. So Roomba is a company that makes a robotic vacuum cleaner. They just came out with a robotic weeder. They're calling it the Turtle. T-E-R-T-I-L-L, and it, for 3 hours, will weed your garden for you. Not sure how it works or how successful it is. I don't trust it, but it exists because people do not want to do the mundane tasks of weeding, grocery shopping. You can do grocery shopping from your phone. So these are tasks people don't want to do anymore, and so if somehow we can make it easier for them, and then maybe they'll become more successful gardeners, I'm all for it. This one I'm a little scared about. This is actually happening. Robotic bees. Walmart has filed 6 patents for different kinds of robotic bees. Bees that can pollinate, bees that can spray pesticides, bees that can attack other pests, bees that can monitor crop damage. So these are little drones that fly around. They're not actual bees, but they're little drones that fly around your crops. And maybe it's a solution because our insects are declining, but it's scary to me that we are replacing all of the things that are natural with robots. And in Japan, they've done tests of these drones for pollination, and they've been 37% successful. I've read that they're testing these drones in Russia as well. And in the United States, at our university, Texas A&M, they're using drones to monitor crop, big, huge agricultural crops. And it's good because then they can spot a pest or a disease early, and then they have to spray less pesticides, so it's fewer pesticides and fewer money spent to spray those pesticides. But it's an interesting trend. You can think of it what you will. It scares me a little bit, but you know, it's just what it is. It's happening. So our sixth trend is called Moonstruck, and this is my personal favorite. This is a design trend. Every year we do, we try to look and see what's happening in design, and we look and see what's happening in color. And everybody always wants to know the color, and we're not Pantone, although last year we predicted purple, and Pantone after us predicted purple, so there's a lot of pressure this year. But we'll talk about that one in a minute. This year it's Moonstruck. So the moon is influencing our design, it's influencing our behavior. I've just seen the moon the last couple of days as it got fuller and fuller, and now it's waning, but it's such a powerful thing, and it really is one of the things that connects us to nature. You walk outside, you see the moon, and you're in awe. And it's appearing in design. Watches, wedding gowns, stars and the moon, jewelry. The moon is something that's appearing in fashion, furniture, and this is when we look at our trends. We look at them, what's happening in all industries, not just in gardening. And we see the moon pop up over and over and over again. We have a hit TV show called This Is Us. I don't know if anybody watches it, but the main character wears a crescent moon necklace. So there is a trend that's happening with the moon. So how can we capitalize on that? Well, one of the ways that we can do is we have an old, ancient farming practice where we garden by the phases of the moon. Is that something that you guys ever did here? You garden by the moon? Or you grow plants by the moon? It's, if you don't know, because lots of people, it's gone out of fashion, but it's something that would be fun to do, maybe a workshop on gardening by the moon, maybe at night, maybe with a glass of wine. So when the moon is waxing, you plant your annuals and vegetables that bear crops above ground. That's when you plant those. But when the moon is waning, you plant your flowering bulbs, perennials, biennials, and your vegetables that bear crops underground. So I don't know if it works, and I don't know if it's scientifically proven, but it can't hurt. You know, if it gets people to be interested in gardening, if it gets people to want to garden, if it gets people in your garden center, let's try it. Well, the other trend is moon gardens. So, yes, I know I told you people are spending more time indoors, so how can we get them outside? We create moon gardens. You create spaces that look different at night with bright white plants, with leaves that reflect the moon, and fragrant flowers, so when you brush by them at night, they have a scent. And don't forget maybe some bug repellent herbs so you don't get attacked by the bugs and you don't have to spray them. So you create these moon gardens that are places for people to entertain at night. And it gets them to, again, fall in love with being outdoors and fall in love with those trends. And as an added benefit, these nighttime plants, these nighttime pollinators might attract bats, which your customers shouldn't be afraid of, but they're nighttime pollinators. So it's a great added benefit of what we're doing for the planet. So spoiler alert, it's the color of the year. Our 2019 color of the year is mint, and we looked at lots of different fashion to help us with this trend, and we also worked with a global forecasting trend company called WGSN to help us figure out that we think mint is going to be the color of the year, but you know, it's just for fun. So why do we like mint? Well, it's a neutral color, so it enables you to decorate it with all other types of kinds of colors. It has a vintage, old feel, but it also has a fresh, new feel. It's a big color that was popular in the States for the past couple of years was called Millennial Pink, and it was this very light shade of pink that this young group of people liked. And now we're moving away from that feminine shade to a more gender-neutral shade as we become more of a global world. And as I said, that WGSN agrees that neo-mint is going to dominate the world of fashion and interiors for 2020 and beyond. So I'm telling you now, you're way ahead of the curve. So we talked about mint emerging in design. This is one of my favorite. This is called a shrimp plant in the States. I don't know what you call it. But this hue is soft and upbeat, yet it's not too in your face. And you can use it in accessories in the garden. You can use it in plants in the garden. Any way that you can use this color in the garden, the better. And then, of course, we have our plant, mint, which has so many benefits. But it's not common that we have our color of the year also be a plant that we sell. So what are some of the benefits of mint? Well, first, it's easy to grow. We all know that mint is an herb, and so it can grow almost anywhere. So it's a great plant for people who maybe don't know. They're a beginner, they're shopping for those cacti and succulents. It's a great, easy plant. Chickens are big in the United States, chickens as pets. I don't know if that's a big thing here, but lots of people have chickens as pets. So mint is great for chickens to eat. It makes their breath smell good, but it's also an immunity booster for them. Thank you for that. But biting insects don't like it. So you can plant mint around your walkways in your moon garden to deter mosquitoes and other biting insects. It also has ancient healing benefits. Mint aids in digestion. Of course, it freshens your breath. And it improves your gut health. And that's fermented foods. And fermented foods is going to be a big food trend in 2019. We'll see more and more fermented foods. So mint can help with that as well. And finally, just smelling a strongly scented plant like mint raises your heart rate, and it boosts your heart vitality, and it makes you think of nature, and it connects you back with the earth. So, to wrap it up, I just want everyone to think about how our industry really taps into the legacy that we have with nature. We have a connection with nature that we are getting far away from, but we are starting to come back. And as an industry, as a group of people who sell nature, it is our responsibility to be at the forefront of this and make sure that we will be the ones that bring nature back into our customers' lives and make them happier and healthier. So that's it. I have sources if you have questions about where I got this information. I didn't make it up. We source all of our information, and that's it. So thank you.